But we'll take our attention away from River State politics to issue of broader national perspective, and that has to do with the issue of the labor. And I'm being joined on the program by the national president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Mr. Ajaero. He joins us right here in our Lagos studio. It's good to see you in Lagos, Mr. Ajaero.
Thank you very much.
I'm almost tempted to ask you what are you doing in Lagos, but I know you're the national president, so you can be everywhere.
Exactly.
Thanks again for coming on the program. The natural place to start is, we already know what the demand of labor is, whether it's NLC or TUC, organized labor, is demanding for 615,000 naira as minimum wage. You had said 1 million, but you were kind enough to come to 615,000. But people are curious to know, how did the labor union come to 615,000? What's the breakdown?
Okay, thank you very much. And let me start from there. Straight away breakdown. Labor looked at certain indices. The one is maybe global, UN, world bodies, that no human being can survive on $1, less than $1 per day. And we were quite aware that Nigeria approves of only 4 children for a family. And then husband and wife and 4 children, you have 6 members of a family. And we looked at, if you figure it out on $2 per day per person, you are having about $12 per day. And if you multiply it by 30 days, you're going to have about 360. And then the conversion is left for Nigerians, not labor. But that definitely it is more than 615,000 that we demanded. The second issue, which is very common in labor negotiation all over the world, is the cost of living index. And then we looked at accommodation for the least. This we are talking of minimum wage, not a flat. Maybe a room and parlor. A family of 6 looked at 40,000 naira per month. We looked at education. Probably a child might be in public school, and if we apportioned 50,000 for it, which, in most instances is not up to what you can pay for a child. We looked at feeding, and we allocated 500 naira per meal. Probably some people can feed on maybe half loaf of bread or without meat. So if you have 500 naira per meal, the person will be spending 1,500 a day. And for 6 people for 1 month, for them to feed, whether it is balanced or not, is about 270,000. And then for a worker that lives in the fringes, that comes to work, 4 or 5 drops, and then transportation, we look at to and fro, maybe about 3,000, and you can't get less than 90,000 or thereabout. So we looked at gas or kerosene or whatever, and then we calculated it that an average cylinder is filled these days with about 16 to 17,000, and you fill it almost every 2 weeks. You're talking about 30-something thousand for a family to cook and all that. So those are some of the, and now we looked at electricity, and that was before the current tariff increase. We looked at 20,000. So if you buy a token of 20,000, I'm not sure a family of 6 would it will last for more than 2 weeks. But that was what we added there. And then Medicare, maybe 50,000. If there is no surgery, if there is no major problem. And we looked at clothing, 20,000, for a family. So it's like you buy a cloth once or twice, in a year. That's what we are going to use. So those are the things that led to the calculation that brought it to 615. It wasn't just brought from the moon. It was based on the present economic reality that we have. And then we forwarded it to the Nigerian state. And these things are now subject to debate. For you to say, no, you can get a house for 20,000 or even 10,000. And we look at the studies. No, you can feed with maybe 200 naira a day, or a meal, for 3 times a day. So those are things that will lead up. But we had a provision, that if the economic situation continues, especially the inflation, this will not be enough. And that was where the issue of 1 million comes up. If we continue to grow the way we are growing now, the valuation of the currency inflation continues, 1 million naira will not be enough for a worker to survive in a month. But if they are checked and they come down, our demand and what we are going to take will be less.
So let's stay with the 615,000, according to the present reality right now. So what is the federal government proposing? Because we know there are meetings going on and negotiations are going on. We even heard there was a deadlock at some point. This is what you're putting on the table. What is the government putting on the table?
Well, as we talk today, this demand was put before Easter, and the federal government has not responded to any of this. However, after I made this speech, giving up to end of May deadline for this activity to be concluded, because as of today, there's no minimum wage in existence in Nigeria. The old minimum wage expired by 18th of April. So Nigeria is without minimum wage.
18th of April 2024?
Yes. Nigeria is. So, however, 2 nights ago, we hurriedly saw a message for a Zoom meeting, on the minimum wage negotiating committee coming up on the 15th of May. So let us see what happens in such a Zoom meeting and how effective it will be and the subject matter.
15th of May, by my calculation, should be like next week Wednesday. Just about 5 days from now. So let's look at this critically. Do you really think, or does Labour really think, with the reality of the government is facing, that government can really pay 615,000 naira for the least worker?
So we need to understand the reality. Because if it is not the reality that we can't even go to work with 60,000 as transportation, go and come, what then is the reality? Because it's in this country that you don't have any social security network. You don't have accommodation provided. You don't have transportation provided. Even electricity, you generate it by yourself. Even water, you sink borehole in your house. And all these things are contesting for a little portion of the 30,000 naira minimum wage. Now, we're talking of realistic, and after the removal of subsidy, we're told clearly that you can't get this in reverse, go and negotiate wages. And the outcome of the removal of subsidy is this skyrocketed cost of living all over. And we have brought it that this is the cost of living on us. But you said you are making trillions. Are we not supposed to balance it? Look at those policies that have driven all these things up, and then realize it with the demands of labor. In this demand, you don't see any 1 kobo for savings. It's just what we need to go to work and come back as a family. So the issue of realistic, is what we are going to negotiate on the table. If you bring down the inflation to a certain digit, if you bring down the value of the foreign currency to a certain digit, the demand of labor will be different. If at all they are going to be constant. And then if you want to equally work it, statistically, that every year, if inflation goes at this rate, we adjust wage at this rate. Maybe we should not be boxing ourselves on a daily basis. We now know that, we are reacting to, certain indices in the economy. So I think those are options that are open for negotiation.
So for you as Labour, I know that you said 15 negotiation is going to go on, and then the 30th, I think, is the deadline you're giving for all of this. What can be a middle ground? I know why I'm staying on that question. What can be a middle ground between you and government?
Well, middle ground will be based on realities on the ground. Because as we proceed, we'll still go back to our organs to say this is what government has offered. And they will tell us how they are feeling, how it's pinching them. Okay. And we'll still take it back. So definitely there will be a middle ground. The middle ground may be if there are some policies that will influence it to go high, for us to equally demand for higher than 615.
Mr. Ajaero, the reason I'm asking is because what you're also proposing, are you also proposing a unique or uniform minimum wage? Because I can tell you for a fact from the data available to us that without FAC, a lot of the states will be insolvent. They will literally go belly up. They will not be able to function or perform any of their responsibilities. Even the 30,000, some are paying less, some are not even able to pay. So in your negotiation, are you thinking of, unique situations per state, or you're thinking of a uniform blanket case for everybody?
Well, minimum wage all over the world is the minimum. No state should pay less, and it's to take care of the number of the workers that are less privileged, the workers that are voiceless. However, unique should not be an exclusive concept. It should be universal. If a governor from a state that doesn't generate 1 million a month collects 5 million as his salary, the governor that collects 20 billion a month, are they supposed to collect the same thing? These are issues. Now, if you are not generating enough money, you depend on rent from national. What are you supposed to do? You look inwards, because experience has shown us from what you said that the ones paying higher minimum wage are not the ones with the highest revenue coming from the federation account, but the ones that kept their priority, in order and have the issue of wages and the productivity of workers as very paramount in their hearts. So there's a relationship between the priority of a state, and then the way they treat their workforce and the motivation the workforce get there, ditto the productivity that comes from such states.
I'm going to bundle two questions in one because of time. We're totally out of time. So I need you to speak on the issue of the cybersecurity levy. And if this doesn't fall through at the end of the month, I'm talking about this negotiation, will Labour go on strike? Will they go on protest? What exactly? So two questions in one because of time.
Yeah, the issue of cybersecurity, the NLC has made their position clear, that is not wanted. It's not acceptable at this point. It's a tax too many. We are bothering to see how we can even survive with our wage. And we are negotiating now. And there are some other variables that will impose a lot of problem on us. And it's even trying to drive the nation back to where people will be spending from their pocket, not transfers, not cashless policy. On the issue of end of the month, if nothing happens, we'll go back to our principles, because say at the end of the month will not guarantee industrial peace. So, and that was our decision at our organ meetings. At the end of the month, we'll go back and whatever they direct, we're going to do it.
You didn't answer the last bit of the question, one sentence. Are you going on strike, protest, if the government doesn't give you your 650?
That is a mandate we're going to get from our National Executive Council, our Central Executive Council. It is on the next approach to it.
Mr. Joe Ajaero is the national president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. We must thank you so much for stopping by and giving us your insights on the issues of organized labor and the federal government. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my brother.